Hello, and welcome back to the Garden of Grace devotion. My name is Pastor Katie, and I'm one of the pastors at Trinity Lutheran Church in Lilburn, Georgia. Today, in this series of listening for joy during the season of Lent, I begin with a question. Today, I wonder if you have ever had your understanding of a particular item fundamentally changed. If you have ever had something that you have understood or seen in a certain way and had that understanding just completely shifted, changed, transformed. Well, I ask you this question today because that happened to me last Sunday during the children's sermon of all times. Last Sunday, the gospel lesson was on the story of Lazarus being raised from the dead. And the theme for the day had to do with looking for signs of new life where it didn't seem like maybe there were any. Throughout the children's sermon and the adult sermon, Pastor Scott encouraged us to look for new signs of life, even in troubled times. When he began the children's sermon, he asked the question to the children. He asked them where they see signs of new life. I have no idea why, but one of the children in the first service said snakes. I will say to you that this for me is not a sign of new life. I'm not a big fan of snakes. However, that was one of the children's answers. Where do you see signs of new life? They each provided different answers, and then Pastor Scott offered his illustration. And it was at that point that I was pretty amazed. The illustration that Pastor Scott offered related to a sign of new life was an egg. He held up an egg, a plastic egg with Easter coming. You can find these around. And he held up the egg and he showed the children the egg as a symbol of new life. He went on to talk about there's a sign of new life. There's my dog barking at the UPS man. It's been a while since we've had a UPS delivery since the garden devotion, during the garden devotion. So Pastor Scott held up the egg as a symbol of new life for the children. And he talked to them about how the egg is a symbol of new life because of what springs forth from it. He opened up the egg and he had a little chick in there. I have a duck. It's what I had. And they talked about all the different ways that new life springs forth from eggs. So therefore, the egg is a symbol of new life. And I will say to you that I was stunned. I was stunned at the idea of an egg as a symbol of new life for my entire life, with the exception of Easter egg hunts. Eggs have been something to be avoided. For eggs, for me, due to a life-threatening allergy that I have to them, are actually a symbol of danger and potential death, the very opposite of life. And so I sat there and I listened. And I listened to him talk about the egg as a symbol of new life. And I was flabbergasted. For I cannot imagine a time ever in my life where I have understood an egg in that way. As something good, as something that brings forth life, The illustration has stuck with me the last several days. It is a place where others see a symbol of life that I have not. And I will tell you that my understanding of an egg was reshaped on Sunday morning. It was reshaped through the story that Pastor Scott offered. I now hold both understandings of eggs. It is still very important for me to avoid them. I do not need to eat them or anything that has eggs in it. I do not need to consume eggs. However, I also now can see where they aren't simply a symbol of danger, where they also are a symbol of life, of new life, because of what springs forth from them. That day, that tomb with Lazarus, Mary and Martha only expected to see signs of death. Jesus came, though, and they saw a sign of life. As I've been thinking about this theme the last few days and how my understanding of an egg has really been changed or enhanced, I've been thinking about other places in life, other things that for some are symbols of death and pain and heartache, and for others are symbols of life. And one of the places that came to mind for me as I thought about this is the church. It is not uncommon for me to hear stories from people about the ways that they have been harmed, inside of the walls of a church. It is not uncommon for me to hear stories from people about how they feel judged or ridiculed inside the walls of a church. For some, the church is a symbol of pain and harm. For others, the church is a source of life. As I listened to the story that Pastor Scott told about the plastic Easter egg, and as I reflected on that, I thought about the importance of listening to the stories of others, and also of sharing our stories with others. Where there are many places where I may see darkness and death, that someone else actually sees life through God's grace. And I have had many conversations with people who have understood the church in a certain way, who have been deeply hurt and harmed. But who are willing to share their story. And sometimes then I'm able to share mine. Of how for me, the church in particular, Christ, is a source of life and grounding and support, a light that shines in the darkness. That for me, the church is a source of community and support and encouragement and growth. This doesn't happen in a way that I tell others that what they see is wrong. It would do me no good for Pastor Scott to say to me, "What are you thinking? An egg is not a symbol of death. It is only a symbol of life." It is of utmost importance that we be able to hear each other and each other's perspectives and understandings. For then we get a bigger picture of what life looks like. When we live in community and engage in community with each other, we can see signs of life that we wouldn't normally otherwise. When we're willing to listen, when we're willing to share. We can see signs of life in difficult times. And so I offered this story to you today to wonder, are there ways that you see signs of life in the world that perhaps others don't? And are there places perhaps where you only see darkness that others might see life? For I will tell you that this very simple illustration opened my eyes to another way to understand a very fundamental element found in creation. And I pray through God's grace, you may have a similar experience with something, or perhaps through community, you may be a source of life for someone around you. May God help us to be compassionate with one another as we seek to look for signs of new life. Thanks be to God, who journeys with us always, and I pray God's peace to you today and always. Amen.